Hi there, welcome to the third part of sports psychology themes. I am Konstantinos Papageorgiou, Konstantin Papageorge, the creator of the Distal Method. Another famous triplet: concentration, focus, attention. And if I may ask, what's the difference? Attention, it's a selective process that controls or directs our awareness of events in the environment. Concentration is the skill of continuously refocusing on a stimulus or idea, of keeping your attention focused. So, attention has to do with our awareness. Okay, so I'm aware of something and I can direct my awareness there, but that doesn't mean I can concentrate there. Okay. So I can have a pen and I can put my attention to the nose and I could do a concentration exercise, okay, where I'm trying to stay there without moving my concentration somewhere else. Or maybe I do the same with a thought and I try and I imagine a thought, I imagine a picture and I'm trying to maintain it unchanged. That's another exercise, for example. And focus is the center of interest or activity. Okay. This is also a popular graph. It's the Niederfer's attentional styles. So we have a broad and a narrow dimension. It's called the width of attention and the direction of attention. So we can have external attention to the environment or internal inside us, like when, for example, thinking something very deeply, and this and also it can be a narrow attention. For example, I can put my attention in the nose of the pen, or I could perceive a wide external attention. I could perceive I could put my attention to the whole room at once, just like the doing Dzogchen exercises. And internally as well, for example, I could put all my attention in my little finger, or I could feel all my body. That's some examples. In tennis, and this is why I tried to show you this graph, not a really clear one, but it's very interesting because it shows the dimensions and sports that are relevant to each dimension. So we have tennis here actually. So tennis as an activity tends to be is an internal process. So we not a fully internal process, but it's towards the internal dimension, and it's more broad than narrow, but it spans from very broad, when we have our attention to the whole court, for example, to very narrow when we really focus on a ball. And you see some other interesting examples about basketball, or about bodybuilding or bowling. Interestingly, choking has to do with all these. I mean that this triplet: attention, concentration, and focus. It also is very relevant with distractors. It's something like a parallel thing, because choking is when we lose our attention and we unfocus, but we have internal sources of distraction, and when we have distractions, of course the sources are external. So it's the same thing distracting our attention from irrelevant thing, and choking, that is very bad for our performance. But one has to do with our inner world, our internal sources, and the other has to do with external sources. Here are some possible solutions. So one possible solution or exercise could be eye exercises. So for example, I try to control my focus. So I use, for example, a pen or something that's furthest away than me, and I focus my attention and I broaden my attention. I focus it, broaden, focus, broaden. It's like I do gym to my focusing skill. I could do the same with sounds, so I could just hear a sound that's next to me, like, I don't know, a metronome, like this, and this is one sound, it's narrow attention, and I could keep this and from this go to a sound that's further away from me. So I'm focusing to a car, and now to another, to still another stimuli, another stimulus. So now I'm listening to an airplane or a train or something, or birds. Okay, so I go from something that's very close to me, and I broaden my attentional span, my attentional field. And if I do such exercises oftentimes, then when I feel choking or when I'm distracted, I can regulate my focusing more effectively. Okay, especially when I'm choking. So when I'm choking, I could very easily, if I have practiced, if I've done my homework, I could very effectively refocus. Imagery is helpful to solve such problems, either by imagining myself staying focused, or actually when I practice focusing skills using imagery. Routines help my attention to focus to relevant cues of the environment. And when I'm doing training practice as an athlete, I should do it in an increased ecological validity context. That is, I could use distractors. I could use, because if I play tennis, maybe there are parents, maybe there are other people watching this match, okay, an audience or whatever, spectators, you know. So I should try at some point to imitate that at practice, as I'm trying to replicate, to simulate how things are in the formal competition. Because if where I'm practicing everything is quiet and harmonical, and suddenly I go somewhere where it's, you know, something like a negative vibe, there are other people playing around me, they're cursing and everything, I could very easily lose my focus. Okay, and this is a funny thing, because this happens also to spiritual practitioners because it's a very different thing to be in a cave in the mountain and meditate, and a totally different thing to come down to the town and have all these distractors. Then you lose many of your developed skills, or CDs as they're called. You just lose them because it's a totally different thing. So ecological validity is important for everybody if we want to develop the skills that work in real situations and not just in ideal situations. And I have been referring to ecological validity again and again when I was presenting the way we learn and we improve technique, and when I was referring to the models and the performance spirals and so on. A very important thing is also overtraining and burnout. Okay, overtraining is a milder phase of burnout, And the basic signs or symptoms or maybe characteristics of overtraining are apathy, lethargy, sleep disturbance, weight loss, and so on and so forth. And it says slow workout recovery, but in burnout the recovery is even slower. Here we need days or weeks, here we need months or even years. So we shouldn't burn out. Okay, loss of desire to play, so emotional, okay, very strong emotional implications. Lack of caring, sleep disturbance, again, exhaustion, okay, a host of characteristics. The danger is that, of course, when I'm training, I have to stress myself at every level to develop my performance. One should realize that the development of the performance never happens while training. That's a myth. It happens when I'm resting. This is when learning or even muscle building is happening. I'm not building my muscles at the gym. That's a proximal adaptations. For example, I do my biceps and I think because I see them grow at that very time, I think, I've built my muscles. No, it's just the accumulation of blood. Actually, I have decreased my muscles because I have destroyed my muscles if I did a very good workout, and that's the goal of the workout, to destroy muscle cells, and so they regenerate and they build even more. They build mass. They hypertrophize, so to speak. So we can see that here, and supposedly, if we don't stress enough, the total performance gains will be insignificant. If we train too much or if we stress too much the system, the same thing is going to happen. And I want to stress a concept, the concept of overreaching. Supposedly, this is the optimum level of stressing for learning or performance to occur. Supposedly, if I overdo it just a tiny bit, I mean, if I touch overtraining, overload, so if I overreach, through a process that it's called supercompensation, I will be able to increase my performance or my learning even more. Is this the case? That's a theory. Okay, that's a theory. So does that happen? The answer is yes. We do have supercompensation, but no, the supercompensation we have, first, it's dangerous because we could burn out or overtrain or injure ourselves, and second, it's not as effective as training here in our optimum level and resting regularly. Okay, so supercompensation happens, but it's not as effective as doing our best in our training as far as optimum stress is concerned. Okay, in volume, intensity, and stress factors. There is the so-called iceberg profile, and it's the psychological profile of mood states in successful athletes, and just both an observation and a goal. So, successful athletes have been observed in general to have low tension, depression, anger, fatigue, and confusion, and high vigor. Okay, so that's a very good indicator of where we're at when it comes, for example, to total stress and to overtraining and burnout. Okay. coaches are athletes, they are performance, they are experts, not motor experts usually, they're interactional experts when it comes to motor skills. They play good tennis, they're not athletes. We see football coaches that they're even obese, okay? I mean, but usually in tennis one has to have a basic level of fitness because tennis players usually do play tennis or some tennis. But basically they are experts, okay, they're scientists, and they do get burned out, and I mentioned two factors that affect this burnout. So we have entrapped coaches on one hand, for example, coaches that they have reasons not to want to do training to some groups. For example, they were forced to take a team. They didn't want, or it was too much, and they feel entrapped. This is a factor that leads to burnout or to overtraining in some sense. On the other hand, we have a style of coaching that is considered caring or people-oriented, and it has been found that such coaches, it's reported that they get burned out more easily. Okay, so it's like a two-sided knife. It's a good thing to be caring and people-oriented, but on the other hand, it exhausts you, so to say. So find the balance. Have that in mind and find the balance. This also is the case because that's another role for a coach, or that of the therapist. Okay, therapists, if we speak about therapists, they should not get too much concerned about the people they cure. That might sound as a paradox to people who are not very, they don't have really experience in being therapists or in therapies, but that is the case. I mean, a very good therapist, of course, has compassion, but this compassion doesn't automatically mean that I will identify with the problem of the patient, and while doing a therapy, I should take their negativity inside me. Okay, that's not good for me, because I want to keep giving therapies for a long time and to many people, and it's not good for the individual as well, for the one I'm curing, because if I speak in terms of spiritual traditions, I'm not an enlightened being, I'm not a Buddha, so I don't have an infinite capacity of receiving negativity, for example. Just consider the idea. Okay, I have a very small capacity and I feel that very quickly, so it's not good for the patient, not good for me. What's the point? Okay, so I should act based on my compassion, being a coach or a therapist, but not get wasted. Okay, I should be able to keep a balance and keep my things mine and their things theirs. Okay, I've also touched upon this thing when it came to the empowering action coordinators that suffer for the others. But as I stressed there too, they act more like mirrors, reflecting back the suffering, so making the individuals more compassionate and more self-aware, rather than being affected, okay, in a way that's negative for me. when we learn skills, there's always a learning plateau. Okay, so we shouldn't give up when we reach that plateau. What does that mean? I keep practice, but no performance gains occur. That doesn't mean I have reached my end, the end of my learning capacity, and I'm not capable of learning anything anymore. I should be very patient. And this phase is really, really important because many important adaptations happen at this stage. It's said that, please forgive me if I'm wrong because I don't remember the numbers exactly, but just have grasped the general idea. The bamboo, the plant, they say that it grows 1 meter in something like 10 years, and in 1 month or 2 months it gains another 9 meters. So you can't have the 10-meter bamboo without the 10 years. You can't just go directly to the 1 month that it increased so rapidly. The bamboo didn't grow 9 meters in 1 month. Actually, it grew 10 meters in 10 years and 1 month. Just have this as an idea. So very important adaptations that are not visible happen during this plateau stage. So we should be patient and know and keep our faith that something very important happens and keep practicing. Okay, and there is not one learning plateau, there are many learning plateaus. The solutions to both overtraining and plateaus, learning plateaus, are A, to periodize your training, not just do one thing, but follow some form of periodization protocol. Do cross-training as well, so maybe you're doing tennis, you could do cycling as well, you could do dance, some other form of physical activity, and not exhaust the volume of practice doing one thing or one sport only. Have enough recovery. If you haven't heard that yet, sleep is wondrous. It's really amazing what is happening while you sleep. Everything happens while you sleep. Nothing happens when you're awake and trying and trying and trying. You know, it's like you have prepared everything for a trip, for a journey, and practice is putting gasoline in the car, and sleep is igniting the car and driving there. Okay, no sleep, no performance improvement. High spirits, you should keep your mentality, you should do mental training, mental practice. You should have goals that are well structured, and of course a good and balanced diet is also a necessity. When we say about diet and food, we should not forget water and the quality of water and food. Okay. Now let's go to another theme. It's about character and the relevant things of morality in the context of sport, of fair play, and of good sporting behavior. These are not very well-defined concepts, but usually all of them are referred to as a good character. Okay, with a good sporting behavior, of a fair play and morality. we should develop a good character in the children. Everybody, you know, every sport psychology textbook and everybody in this business or even in education continuously say participating in sports or in structured sports by its own does not build character. Okay, you should do very specific things to build the character of your athletes. You should use theater pedagogy. You should dedicate time to discuss about theoretical dilemmas like philosophical experiments. What would happen if we have a case where, for example, talk about that with your athletes, with your young athletes, or take an instance that you see something like that happening and start a conversation there. What would happen if I'm losing a game, the ball is in the opponent's ball is in, I clearly see it as in, but they don't see it and they ask me, was it in or out? What should I say? Say it was in and lose the game, or say it was out? You know, the way you should treat such conversation is not with prefixed answers. I'm a constructivist. I believe that knowledge is constructed on the go and it's embedded in the environment and to everybody. So there is no Bibles that I have the perfect answer and I read it from there. The tennis Bible anyway. So I should lead such a conversation in a constructing and a constructivistic way and discuss such dilemmas. It's not that I will discuss it for 10 or 15 minutes and everything will be clear in the children's mind and they will develop character. Maybe I will reach no conclusion at all, or maybe the conclusion is not satisfactory. It's okay. I have years ahead of me to build a stance towards such matters. You should design procedures for conflict solving that will happen among you and your athletes, among athletes themselves, and not just improvise when they happen. You will have to improvise, of course, but do have such procedures in place. So what happens when two of your athletes find themselves in a conflict-like situation? There should be procedures. So you should establish them from beforehand. In your club, the accepted and good behaviors should be defined and described in advance. So, for example, you should say, okay, it's very usual in tennis to give my hand to the opponent at the end of the match. That's the description of a good behavior. But this alone is nothing, and it means nothing. This alone, for me, in my eyes, is like raping. It's like using I'm sorry in a very wrong way. Consider this. I'm doing you a wrong. I'm doing you wrong. And on top of that, on top of the injury or of, let's say, on top of the loss you have, you also have me coming later and asking for forgiveness. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So you have the loss and you have the psychological stress that you should forgive me as well. So it's double the harm. The best way for someone, if you want my opinion, is to do something positive and then ask for forgiveness, because forgiveness by itself is like adding offense to injury. So define and describe accepted and good behaviors that have a holistic approach, okay, and they deal with even details, okay. So for example, how you should question a bad call, how you should communicate to the other person your feelings, or how you should interact with other people playing around you, or how you should treat your equipment, or you should treat things around in the club or stuff like that. Aggression is defined as any form of behavior, physical or verbal, directed towards the goal of harming or injuring another living being who is motivated to avoid such treatment, because we also have masochists who want to be injured. Okay, so aggression is very important issue in sports. Some people think that participating in sports decreases aggression. To the contrary, it increases it, as it increases any other neurotical behavior if it's not done within a psychotherapeutical context. Learning should be attained in a psychotherapeutical context, mind you. Aggression, okay, maybe we'll have feelings of aggression, but for example, if I break my racket, that is not considered officially aggression. I should harm others and intentionally do so. So again, if I throw my racket down and accidentally it bounces up and hits someone, that's bad, but it's not called aggression. We have two kinds of aggression. We have hostile aggression, instrumental aggression. In hostile aggression, my goal is to harm directly the other person. I feel, I don't know, bad envy or anger for the other person, and I attack. I'm trying to harm them. That is usually so in martial arts sports, but sometimes, you know, in tennis as well, we do some smash on the opponent, for example. And instrumental aggression, so I don't really care about harming the other person, but if I can be aggressive, if I harm them and this results in me winning, that's fine. The instrumental aggressor thinks. So what do we do about aggression? It's more or less something that has to do with character for sports. Okay. We should educate morally our athletes. It's, as you can see, it's a multimodal approach. There are many parameters involved, not just one, and they take a lot of time. We should put guidelines. That's the mental part. Okay, that's important too. For example, we should say no alcohol. Do not consume alcohol while being in the in the competition, or while being in the hotel, in your hotel room. I mean, preventive measures or mental directions that help someone to avoid being aggressive, for example. Norms should be followed, how to behave or what to do when a situation pops up that usually makes people feel aggressive. Okay, so how should we deal with that? There should be directions, guidelines and norms about such things. And psychotherapy, as I'm always stressing, okay, it's very important. That could, for example, entail theater pedagogy or other techniques. It's not easy to deal with aggression, as it is not easy to deal with everything else. And I'm citing Lauer and Payment, 2009, their paper, because they used a program for aggression in hockey, in a hockey team. You should try to find this paper and maybe read it. But the bottom line, what I want to say is that their intervention lasted for almost a year. it's not like they did something for 1 or 2 weeks and aggression dropped. Okay. Some things about our beloved children. They participate in extracurricular activities, boys and girls, usually for these reasons. The top reason for both boys and girls is to have fun, and we should be very conscious about that as well. So most of boys and girls that start their participation really want to have fun, okay, but also other things like do something that they're good at, staying in shape. So we should not really project our own fantasies and our own expectations to them. We should know these lists and try to do things that are relevant with these lists, okay. A big problem is that for every 10 children who begin a sport season, 4, that's almost half of them, okay, discontinue within the same season. And dropout is very important for many reasons, because, okay, it's bad for us, for our job, to lose, let's say, people or even customers, because it's what people do for a living, okay. But it's bad for the children as well, because maybe if we were at some case a bit more careful, for example, if we didn't project our own expectations, if we weren't too harsh, if we respected their priorities, maybe we could, they would stay and they would acquire a skill or a sport that would make their lives better. And that has to do with our understanding of compassion as well. For example, I'm trying not to do a session, I'm not a manager, I'm to just do a session. Maybe I said that too negatively, because managers, it's not what they, it's not that negative being a manager, but my goal is not just to do a training session and then okay, my client pays me, I go home, he goes home, they go home, she goes home, whatever, and things finished. I really do care that I am able to improve the life conditions of people, of other people. So if I take care, and maybe I will be able to achieve that for more people. It's not only their responsibility. Supposedly I am the one that knows better, that knows techniques, that knows sports psychology. I should also make steps towards this end to keep them. It's not that, okay, if they want, they will continue. If they don't want, what to do? No, you can do many things. You won't keep 10 out of 10 children, but in many years' times, you will achieve in keeping even hundreds of children that would have left. And some of them might be not professional players, but they could be good players for their club. They could have a nice skill, a nice game. They can receive joy out of, and you would be responsible for that. That would be good for you in any aspect, okay? Even in spiritual aspects if you want. So, for me, the most important themes in children and sports psychology is how to deal with the issue of dropouts, the deeper motives of children. I mean, okay, some children you might ask them and they are conditioned from their homes to say, oh, I want to play tennis because tennis is a very good sport and blah blah blah, and that's basically bullshit. So you should be able to understand the real motives, which sometimes are perceived competence. They believe they are good and they're just waiting to hear that from you as well. They have other goals and motives that they don't even realize, but they do have implicitly. The role of friends is another important theme, the affiliation motive, so to say. People, children, participate in sports very often, not because they like tennis. They don't know tennis. They don't know judo. They don't know, I don't know, archery or whatever, or volleyball. They do it because a friend of them goes there and they want to be with their friends more. Okay. And they also form friendships there. There are children that are lonely. Loneliness is a very important problem in our society. It's affecting everyone. We don't develop original relationships anymore. We have, for example, Tinder, and our relationship in real life have been affected by this, and we think that we can say we can change people by doing this, and we say get lost from my life, or I want you for a period of time until I do this again, and get away from my life. So it's very important to have this idea of friendship as well, and you should give time for interaction. It's not only about focusing on developing skills. Okay, it's also about giving time to the children to interact with their friends and to interact with their new friends, because that's a motive, that's a social necessity. Okay, so peer relationships. Another theme is stress and burnout. That is not relevant to that many children. It's relevant to about 10% of children, but yes, there are children who experience such feelings as grown athletes do, and that's because, I don't know, they have such traits, they live in harsh conditions, maybe, okay. They don't have fun in what they're doing, their parents pressure them, okay, they worry about failure. So have that in mind, because you will help children that are in need of that kind of intervention to not get stressed and burn out, and for the rest of the children you will improve the conditions and feel them and make them feel even more joyful. The coaching style is important, and that also touches upon the, let's say, the field of pedagogy. Positive reinforcement is important, and mistake contingent encouragement is also important. That is to try to help them to focus on the mistakes of the children and encourage them based on their mistakes. Okay, also based on their mistakes. Parents. I will tell you a story here. There was some years ago a famous coach. I remember that he was famous. I don't remember his name. That came to Greece, and he was asked, what is your favorite type of athlete? And he responded, elder individuals. And everybody asked why. Everybody expected for him to say young athletes and stuff like that. And his answer was, they have no parents. Parents is a plug. It is said that the biggest problem children have is their parents' goals, the projections of the parents to their children. That's a really big problem. That's a very basic theme for me in children's and sports psychology, and it's something one needs to think deep about, and sometimes it brings you to the point of despair. And also the child. And that's an important theme. What to do? Life conditions sometimes are very bad. What can I say? Try to be the buffer. Maybe in some cases, try to create, to make some limits. Okay, to define limits and to put borders. And okay, for me, parents should be interested, but the less they participate, the better, for many reasons. Okay, they should be encouraging and all that. Okay, but you should also educate parents and dedicate part of your time in parent education and speak to the parents about such things. And even if you have the time and if it's possible, do some techniques with parents, for example, in relation to theater pedagogy or something like that. But it's not possible. I mean, we as coaches, we train ourselves, we develop ourselves, and we still have so many deficiencies. Imagine a parent that 99% of times haven't gone to a school for parenting. Okay, so you can't have everything. Professionalization is another plug in sports. We have children who are professional athletes and they do amazing things. There are many cases that they just reflect the expectations of their surroundings. Children are very self-conscious. There are children that really want that as well. But the whole concept of professional sports and competitiveness in its highest level is not a healthy one. For me, it's something that has to do with the misunderstanding of the Nietzschean idea of the superhuman. The superhuman of Nietzsche is the idea of the man, of the human that has gone beyond the idea of death and that has defeated in that aspect death. He's not afraid of death, and he has the person that has gone beyond themselves. Okay, that's the idea of Nietzsche. It's not that we develop superhuman abilities. The Nazis very conveniently interpreted the Nietzschean ideal of the superhuman as, the super race and people who were perfect in a very specific way, like their IQ, their intelligence, their physical appearance, and so on. So professionalization is really not the best path for to develop individuals. Okay, and because not everybody, especially in tennis, I'd say no one has access to such a holistic method as the Distal Method is. More often than not, usually, super high performance is attained to the expense of other things and other characteristics. And we have very good athletes that have, undergone serious pressure or that don't have a balanced life, or they don't develop their emotions holistically. Many players might feel fine, okay, but that doesn't mean that they have developed as they should. For example, and that's no excuse. I mean, arguably you could just leave a man in an animal state and they very well could feel good about themselves. But we have an ideal as humans, okay? We want to evolve we want to develop holistically. We have the ideal of the homo universalis, maybe, or we have the ideal of the philosopher, or we have the ideal of the bright individual that is bright in both physical and mental skills, of the leader. Okay, um, life has many sides, and one should be successful, should have tools for every aspect of their lives: personal, erotical, sexual, career. Okay, so when you professionalize the sport, inevitably, if you don't have a holistic system, as the Distal Method is, you lose many of these parameters. Okay, so what to do? Professionalization is part of our days and times, and what to do, maybe it's written for some people to become very good athletes, world-class level athletes. I mean, a top 1000 tennis player is a really good professional, is someone that if you play with, you won't be able to see the ball, okay? But I'm talking about top 100 or top 10 players. In any case, I'm even talking about top 500, or even, yes, why not, top 1000 players, or players that really do their best and don't even make it to the top 1000, okay? They're trying to be professionals. To all these instances, it's really easy to lose it and be one-sided only. Okay. So professionalization is a matter. My dear friend Konstantina Gogaki, who is an associate professor in the University of Athens in the sports school, the sports department. Her expertise is sports philosophy, and she has written many things about professionalization in sports, and this idea, the Nietzschean idea, and the Olympic spirit and how it's interpreted nowadays. Check her out, check some of her papers maybe. And of course, as I have already mentioned, we can do psychological skills training in children, adapted psychological skills training in children. In the very early stages, we don't even need to tell them anything. We just create a suitable context. For example, when we attribute the causes in causal attribution, okay, we condition the child to think of the causes of their performance as fluid. Therefore, they may have the motivation to work on them and become better. Okay, so we are training their psychology in some way. At the later stages, there's gamification. So you could do something like this. This is very famous. You can't teach to a child, to a small child, to an immature child, about progressive or autogenic relaxation. Okay, but you could do a game like this, or like spaghetti toast relaxation exercise, which is like maybe even done within the context of theater pedagogy. And you know, you start speaking to them, hey kids, you know, there are lots of games you can play with your body. Tell me ideas about games you can play with your body. Blah 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 blah. We'll say one that is called spaghetti toast. Do you know spaghetti? Do you like spaghetti? You know, stuff like that. Enrich it. I wonder how good you are at talking to your toes. Talk to your. Maybe you could start by saying talk to each other. Now talk to your racket. Talk to your hands. Talk to your feet. And can you talk to your toes too? And then you start doing this sort of game. Okay, and this is a part of Orlik spaghetti toes relaxation exercise. You can find the whole sequence elsewhere anyway. So, these were the relevant themes in sports psychology. Uh, Please proceed now to the next chapter. Thank you.